Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Broken But Better podcast. I'm your lovely host, Mariah, and I'm super excited that you are here. I don't take it for granted that you're here. If you are a first-time viewer, welcome to the channel. I don't think it's by accident that you're here, so welcome. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for spending a block on your girl and coming to check out what I have to say today. We're going to jump right into today's episode. Today's episode is one of those episodes that I don't think we talk about enough. I don't think it's a topic that is glamorized. I don't think it's a popular topic because to be honest, nobody wants to do it. And I'm going to name this episode Waiting. And for me, waiting has not always been easy. If I'm going to be honest, I hated waiting. It got to the point that I hated when people told me to hang in there and wait on God. Like, I don't want to wait. Like, y'all, I want it now and I need it now. I didn't even want to hear the Maverick City song, Wait on the Lord, because I could not understand the concept of waiting. What am I waiting on? I didn't understand the importance of waiting. But what I found out is waiting was the most important piece of this whole journey. That I truly believe God will give us a glimpse of what our future will look like. He will give us desires to want certain things. And in wanting those certain things, he doesn't tell us the hiccups that we'll face along the way. He just shows us it, but he doesn't say how hard it will be to get there or what we have to sacrifice in order enough to have those things. We just see the end result, and that's all of our mind is focused on. But what about the waiting part until we get there? What about the emotions that we deal with until we get that very thing that God has promised us? And I can guarantee you now, if you're a believer and you're like, I'm following this thing with Christ, or even if you're a lukewarm Christian, whatever your walk with God is, one thing that I can guarantee you is waiting is not an option, it's a requirement. If you are going to trust God to do the very thing that you want and that you are desiring, waiting is not optional. It is required. It is a must that we all go through a waiting season. Now, I can't tell you how long your waiting season will be, but what I can share is some insight that I think we all go through, whether we're currently waiting on it or that we used to wait, and how those things negatively or positively affected us. But waiting is super important. I think when we see people and we see them at their prime, and you can look at me and maybe like, well, how did she get here? I'm about to tell you, okay? I'm about to tell you the waiting that it did and how waiting was the safest place that I could ever be. It was almost like God's waiting. I'm in God's waiting room and I'm allowing him to work on me before I get to the point where he's trying to take me. And in my waiting season, I went through, like I said, various different emotions. And the emotions changed the longer I waited. So when I first gave my life to God and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this thing with you, God. And God began to show me who he was. He then began to give me insights of who I've become. And in that insight, it allowed me to desire things that align with that purpose in which he revealed to me. And originally when I started, I'm like, okay, God, I can wait on you. But here's the funny thing. God didn't tell me how long I had to wait. God didn't say, Mariah, you're going to wait on this for 3 years. If I would have known that he was telling me that I was going to wait for 3 years, I probably would have said I didn't want it. So initially I'm waiting and I'm like, okay, God, I can wait. It went from 1 month to maybe 2 months. And now I'm acting like a little kid screaming and throwing a temper tantrum because it's not happening fast enough for me. A lot of us may have experienced that or currently experiencing that now, that God has given us something or we have a desire and we truly want it, but we just don't know how long it's going to take. And to be honest, we don't even think about that. So I went from, all right, I'm going to wait. Now I'm throwing a temper tantrum like a little kid, maybe month 2. And now I'm filled with frustration. And in that frustration, I began to question God. Mind you, in prior seasons, he's telling me who he is. Now, because I'm frustrated, I'm throwing a temper tantrum, I'm now questioning this God in which I serve. So now I'm questioning, like, I thought you said you were going to do it. I thought that if I give my life to you, you were going to set me free and I was going to do everything for you. And I was going to be this person. Like, you told me that I could do all these things. And now instead of me praying to God in my gentle voice like I always do, I'm now talking at God as if I'm in charge of him and he works for me. That's in the way how I'm talking to God. And in that moment, it's like God was just molding, like keep softening my heart or trying to soften my heart. But it was like I wouldn't let him in. It was like I had my defense up now because you're not doing the thing that you told me you would do. I went from frustration. And before I go to the next one, I think we have to be careful that frustration can allow some things to enter in that we never sowed. We never meant for that to come in. For me, frustration invited comparison. Frustration invited for me to now begin to compare myself to other people because now my social media feed looks like people based off of what God has shown me that I could possibly be like. It's now making me put God in a box to say, God, you did it for them like this. Now I'm expecting for you to do it for me the same way you did it for them. God doesn't do the same thing twice. God is going to create a new thing and he's not going to bless you the same way he blessed that person. And you guys have some of the similar goals or the similar purpose or the similar want in which you're seeking. Like that's not the type of God he is. And I had to be careful because I allowed that comparison to come in. And now I'm picking myself apart after in previous seasons, God has shown me who he is and showing me who I am. And now I'm undoing what it is that God has already done in me. Another thing that frustration can open up is jealousy. It can make you start to be jealous of other people because they're getting it faster than you are. So we have to be careful and I'm just telling you my experience, but we have to be careful when we're waiting on God and we become frustrated. And I think it's okay to be frustrated because Abraham and Sarah in the Bible, God promised them a baby and Abraham and Sarah thought they can do it in their own way. And they decided to go have a baby with Sarah's maid and then become frustrated when it wasn't what God had promised them. So God is okay with us being frustrated, but in that frustration, we have to make sure the enemy doesn't come in and build comparison in our heart and build jealousy in our heart, because now it's undoing the very thing that God has done in us. So I went from frustration to comparison. Now I'm in a place where I'm having pity for myself. And in that place of pity, I'm now saying, God, you've forgotten about me. Like, did you not remember what I just did? Do you not remember what I gave up to be with you? Do you not see me? Like, I'm now beginning to think that God has seen everybody else, but he forgot about me. And now I'm even questioning God even more. Like, are you real? Are you really going to do the same thing that you thought you were going to do? Now I don't even feel that I'm worthy enough to even come to God and pray because I feel like you don't even hear me. I feel like you don't even see my tears that I'm crying because I'm not waking up happy because I'm thinking that you're going to do one thing and I'm still living the same life. I'm still getting up, going to this same job. These people that I hate, these people that don't value me. My family is still in chaos. Like my money is still funny. And you're telling me to believe for something that I don't even see happening. So then I go from, I don't believe that you see me. I don't think that you hear me. I think that you have forgotten about me. And these are all lies of the enemy that will make you believe that God has forgotten about you. Especially when you're waiting, I think that's one of the most easiest ways for the enemy to come in is because you've been waiting for so long you think God has forgotten about you. Well, I'm here to tell you he hasn't. I'm here to tell you that God is just preparing you for what it is that he has for you. Because like I said, you think the outcome is the most important thing. The waiting is more important than the outcome. Because in the waiting, God is bringing up things that have been dormant in your heart and in your mind and exposing them so that you can get rid of them or that he can get rid of them so that when he gives you that very thing that you've been waiting on, you don't lose it automatically. That jealousy doesn't come up. Comparison doesn't come up. Frustration doesn't come up. Pity doesn't come up of you begin to have pity for yourself when things aren't going the way you want them to go. Like those are the things that was coming up for me. And then I went from pity to hopeless. I went from, I don't have any faith to believe that you're going to do the thing that you said you were going to do. And here's where a lot of believers go wrong. I think we think that God doesn't understand our emotions. I think we think that God doesn't feel what we feel or felt what we felt. The Bible goes through a lot of emotions that God went through just for us. And when I was in my hopeless moments, I really had no faith. Like, I began to feel like I'm just moping around, waiting on, like, I just thought that this is my life. Like, so you just wanted me to give my life to you for nothing? Those was the type of questions I was asking God. You told me that it would be better if I start following you and I start seeking after you. And I've done it. And we in year 1 and I still don't see a change. I still don't see you do anything different. But what I had messed up was the idea of waiting. I couldn't see what God was doing in the waiting. But what I didn't know was he was maturing me. What I didn't know was that he was preparing me. I can use the example that I think a lot of us would love to be millionaires or have enough money to be comfortable, right? But the questions that God starts to ask me when I truly just surrendered and was like, okay, God, I'm going to wait on you in the way that you want me to wait. He started to ask me, are you really ready for the thing that I'm about to give you? He started to ask me, why do you want this? Do you want it for your glory or do you want it for my glory? Do you want it so that it could just be about you, or do you want it for me to give you something to help other people? And then why do you want to help other people? Do you want it for people to see you, or do you want it for people to see me? Or do you want the applause, or do you want people to be pointed back to me? A lot of things that we want, we have to understand why we want them. And in that waiting, God is peeling you like an onion so that you can be able to answer these questions. It's almost like I look at God as like my therapist. When I go to therapy, a lot of times my therapist is not giving me answers. She's just giving me questions so that I can then be like, duh, to myself. Like, duh, Mariah, you knew the answer. You just needed this question to be given to you so that you can be honest with yourself. And I think that as I just went through those different emotions, I truly was like, okay, God, I never brought this to you. Like I believe you gave me this idea of what it is that I'm going to be and what I'm going to have, but I don't think I brought it back to you to say, all right, God, what do I need to do to get this? Or who do I need to be? Who do I need to be to get this? What characteristics do I need to have to become this person that you said I'll be? What lifestyle do I need to have to prepare for what it is that I'm waiting on? And a lot of times we are not prepared for the very thing we keep begging God to do. And then that's when we become frustrated. That's when we become in comparison. And that's when we become jealous of other people. And that's when we become all of these things and we're truly not prepared. So when I was like, all right, God, I'm going to wait on you. I'm going to wait on the Lord until I can't sing it no more. I'm going to sing it from the top of my lungs. And what God began to do was he began to position other people around me. And in doing so, it made me support their visions before mine. And I think one of the things that we have to understand is sometimes you got to be the cheerleader when your team not winning. Sometimes you still have to be a cheerleader even when the goal isn't taking place. Like cheerleaders don't stop cheering even though the team is losing, right? And I think that God began to put me around people who was thriving, who was making it happen. And instead of me looking at it as a bad thing, what I looked at it was like God is exposing me to my future through other people. And what I need to do is he had to see, can I trust you to celebrate other people when it's not happening for you? Can I trust you to push people when it's not happening for you, when you don't even have push for yourself some days? When you don't even have faith to believe for yourself, can I trust you to have faith for somebody else? Can I trust you that if I put you in this circle, you're not going to give people bad advice because you're jealous because you're not the one who's doing it. And they're doing the very same thing that it is that you want to do. Isn't it funny that God will put us around people that is doing the same thing that we want to do, and we have to help them get to what it is that they want to do? Isn't it funny that God will do that to us? That he will say, it's almost like he's testing if he can trust us. It goes back to, can I trust you, or why do you want to do this thing? It's almost like he's testing our motives in the waiting process. But what he's doing is building character in us. He's building endurance. He's building faith. He's building integrity. He's building a work ethic in us that in that waiting, we don't truly see. I can use myself, for example, just sitting here talking on this podcast. In my previous jobs, or one of my previous jobs, I had the opportunity to do a lot of presentations, and it was irritating because I was saying the same thing every day, and I felt like these people were not understanding. But what I didn't realize was God was preparing me to sit in front of a camera and talk to you. What I didn't realize was that my job was really an asset for a moment like this today. But I couldn't see that 2 and 3 years ago because I was not waiting with the right heart posture. One of the prayers that I prayed, and I even had to set it as a reminder on my phone, God, help me to wait with the right heart posture. Because in waiting, God is also testing to see your response. How are you responding? Are you always responding like a temper tantrum kid? Or are you responding with some level of maturity that I can trust you to say that we're going to get you to this destination, but it's some things I got to put in place in order for you to thrive over there? Because you thought waiting was about you. You thought this outcome in life was about you. But maybe I was making you wait because the person who was going to bless you just haven't entered in your city yet. Maybe I'm making you wait is because you do need to practice your speech skills. And maybe I'm making you wait because you haven't learned how to save money correctly. Maybe I'm making you wait on that husband is because you haven't learned how to submit. And you still in comments on the shade room talking about 50-50 conversations. Like, maybe that's why I haven't given you the thing that you want, because you haven't dealt with the things that I've given you already. Because the Bible tells us we already have everything that we need. We don't have to go anywhere else to get those things. I had everything that I needed to start a podcast, but I wasn't looking at it the right way. I wasn't looking at what God had already given me, placed in my home. I wasn't looking at it the right way because I was so busy looking at what I didn't have. I was so busy mad at God because you're making me wait on something that I feel like I should have now, but I wasn't prepared. I wasn't consecrating myself. I wasn't in my word enough to be able to come on here and tell you what God said or what the Bible said. So I wasn't prepared enough. So how can God give me something and that he has blessed me with and I'm not prepared? Because one thing God won't be is mocked. He won't allow you to get on a platform and be like, God said, and you haven't dealt with it in private. You haven't understood that for yourself. And whatever that may be for you, ask yourself, are you prepared for the very thing you keep asking God for? Are you prepared to be an entrepreneur and understand what it means to be an entrepreneur, that you don't have a steady income, but this 9 to 5 that you're working is a steady income? But you want to be an overnight success. You want what you want and you want it now. I mean, like I said, I have to ask myself these questions now, like as I'm waiting, because I'm still waiting on certain things to happen in my life, that I have to say, God, have I prepared correctly? Because what I don't want to do is get it and I mishandle it. What I don't want to do is get it and I don't know how to use it to the best of my abilities that show you off, God. Like, I don't want to get it and I lose it right away because I didn't steward over what I previously had to know how to handle this thing. It's so many different levels to waiting that I don't even think we understand. And I think that waiting is the safest place that we could ever be. We can use like social media, for example. You see people blow up one day and the next day they're not there. What did they do with the time before they got to that point? To maintain that success in whatever they're seeking, or to maintain the audience in whatever they're seeking, that those are just different things that I had to understand about waiting. And in that waiting, like I said, it was the safest place that I could ever be because God was giving me room to practice. He was giving me room to practice before I got there. But also what I didn't realize he was doing, he was just adding puzzle pieces together. The finished outcome or the finished product is not all the way done, but I maybe got half of the puzzle done and not all of the puzzle. But the pieces, the things that we run into, the things that happen, the encounters that take place, the ups and downs and the hiccups are all a part of the process, but we are not looking at it the right way. It's almost, I've heard it before that It's not that you don't have it, what you need. You're just not looking at what you have the right way. And I wasn't looking at what was around me the right way because I was so busy thinking God was going to bless me how he blessed somebody else. I was so busy frustrated that God wasn't doing what I wanted him to do right away. I was so busy tearing myself apart because I was comparing myself to others that people may say you're never on the internet, because I had to be real with myself. I had to realize I'm sitting on this internet comparing myself to people, and I'm not doing what it is that God has told me to do. I'm not spending quiet time with God. I'm not in prayer with God. I'm not praying for the very thing. I think we sometimes want to be there so bad that we don't realize we prayed to be here. I'm going to say that again. I think we want to be there so bad. So whatever that is that you're waiting on, that we didn't realize we prayed or somebody prayed for us to be here. Here is just as important as there. This waiting is just important as the promise that God is going to give you. But I can't skip here. I can't skip today and jump into a year from now. I have to get through today in order enough to get there. So it's almost like I had to tell myself, Mariah, why are you frustrated about something you can't control? You don't have a time machine to skip to get there. So while you're here, you might as well sit in this wait. You might as well see what it is that God is trying to do in this wait. And all of those things, frustration and all of those things that was coming up, God was like, I need you to kill those things, because if you don't, when you get there, you're going to lose it all because you didn't know how to manage your emotions here. You didn't know how to appreciate here enough. We live in a world where we always want to get there. What is next? And I get one achievement and I'm thinking big for what is next. Did you sit here and celebrate the fact that you accomplished one thing? But because that one thing that you accomplished wasn't the thing that God showed you, you can't thank him for this. And those are just things that I had to tell myself and understand that I wasn't waiting on God. God was waiting on me. God was waiting on me to get me together in order enough for me to move on to the next lesson of my life, or next chapter of my life, or the next season of my life. And to be honest, now that I'm out of the waiting, I sometimes look back and be like, that's what made me strong. Like the waiting, I just look at myself almost like a little kid in the waiting. Like, I'm going to say it like this. I remember I think it was like 2022, I was at a prayer conference and the pastor was like, it's your time, but it's not your turn. It's your time and it's not your turn. We in 2024 now. In 2022, he said, it's your time, but it's not your turn. And I'm like, what does that mean? It's almost like it's your time to get up in line to get food, but it's not your turn to actually get the food. But you're in line. You just haven't got up to pay for it or to gather your things, but it's your time. What happens when it's your time and it's not your turn? It'll eventually one day be your turn. But right now, it's just your time to get in line. It's just not your turn to get that thing that it is that God has had for you, because he's preparing you for your turn. He wants to see, can you celebrate when it doesn't happen for you? Can you celebrate when it's not for you? Can you show up for your friends when your life going crazy? Can you applaud them, or do you isolate yourself and throw a pity party and a temper tantrum because it's not happening for you now? I hate that the devil has lied to us and made us believe that we cannot still have a joyful life while we wait to get what it is that God has for us. Because God is a God, I need to see how you're going to respond. Will you only praise me for the victory? Will you only praise me for the promise, or will you praise me while you wait on the promise? Because God is not a God because God will give it to you, but you may not have it for long. And I think a lot of times when we're waiting, we then begin to force opportunities to come up. We then begin to force our way in rooms that we were never meant to be there. And then we're like, well, God, why did you let it happen to me? You didn't wait on me. You did this on your own. Don't blame this one on me. You did this on your own. And then we're living the consequences of that. Abraham and Sarah, for example, God promised them that they were going to have a child in their old age. They didn't understand that. They laughed and didn't even think it was possible. So what they did was they went ahead, Sarah told Abraham, go have a baby with my maid. Go have a baby with Hagar. And they had a baby with Hagar. And God was like, I didn't tell you to do that. I'm not blessing no mess. Like, I didn't tell you to do that. I told you were going to have a baby with your wife, but you didn't have faith enough to believe in that. You didn't have patience enough to believe in that. So now you got to deal with this consequence of having this baby out of wedlock, having this baby with somebody who I didn't tell you to have this baby with. And now you got to deal with the consequences. When we realize that waiting is safe, it'll save us from all of those consequences. Some of us, including myself, are living out those consequences that God not going to take away. We got to deal with it. We got to repent. We got to say sorry and then be patient enough. And one thing God is, though, his grace and his mercy was like, I know you messed up, but I'm still going to give you what I promised you. Isn't that crazy? God still gave Abraham and Sarah what he promised them, even though they didn't wait on him like they should have. God does that to us. He allows us that grace and that mercy. Like, I know you didn't wait on me. I'm still going to give you what it is that I promised you, but I still need you to wait on me. He allows us to bump our head and get back up, bump our head and get back up. But in that waiting, I learned so much about myself. I learned what I like and what I didn't like. I learned that God had to remove people out of my life because some of those people were not meant for me to get to where I was going. And then I had to be open for him to allow new people to come into my life that may knew more than me, or maybe that I had to help doing the very same thing that I wanted to do. I had to get in right standing that if I want to be a millionaire, I got to start thinking like a millionaire. If I want to be a wife, I need to start thinking like a wife. If I want to be a mother, I need to start thinking like a mother. If I want to be an example, I got to start leading like an example. Like, those are the things that I had to do, because I think we think about, I'll be that person when I get there. I'll get in shape when I get there. Like, no, I need you to get in the gym now. I need you to start practicing now. I need you to understand that here is just as important as there. If you don't hear nothing else that I'm saying, I think a lot of times I'll get it right when I get there. What if there never comes and here's your only opportunity? What if God's like, I can make it happen here, but you so focused over there that you don't understand, I'm giving you the blueprint here so that when you get there, it's easy. You don't have to fight as hard anymore like you're fighting now. You don't have to wait anymore when you get there, waiting on somebody. You want to be a businessman or a businesswoman? Why you don't have the business plan now? You wait until somebody give you the money, then you come up with a business plan. You wait until one video pop off, and then you have the business plan. God is saying, no, I need you to get ready now. I need you to steward over the free time that I'm giving you now. What are you doing with the time that I'm giving you? For me, I realized how lazy I was in the waiting. I realized what I was doing I wasn't stewarding over my time well enough. I wasn't looking at my job as an asset. I wasn't looking at my environment as an asset. I was looking at it as that I felt stuck. I felt as if that it can't happen because it's not going to happen out of this mess that's going on now. That I really had to be, maybe in year 2 or 3, I started to sit in the waiting a little bit differently. My heart posture changed about waiting, that I could then praise God and say, God, I thank you for waiting on me. I thank you for molding me. I thank you that you didn't give it to me when I wanted it because I wasn't ready. I thank you that you're making sure that everybody is in alignment so that when it does happen, we all on the same page. I thank you that you're waiting on a certain circumstance to happen in order for me to do what it is that you've called me to do, because everything is in God's timing, is not in our timing. And God is a God that steps outside of time. Time is nothing to him. He can make it happen like this, but are you prepared when he makes it? Or are you scrambling around looking for the next opportunity? Are you not prepared? I think one of the stories that come in my head is the 10 virgins. Not all of them were wise. Not all of them were ready when the bride and the groom came. Some of them were still scrambling around looking for oil to light up their lamp. But had you been prepared while you were waiting on them to come, the door would have opened. You would have walked in with no issue. You would have walked in and there had been no competition. That you would have walked in and everything was waiting for you. That's the type of God that I serve. But it took me a long time to get there. It took me some time. Like I said, I was waiting for 3 years. And I'm still waiting on some things for God to do for me. But my waiting looks different now. I now look around and say like, oh, God is adding some pieces. He molded me over here. I'm still struggling in this area. He getting me together so that when I do have it, I don't face these same struggles and I don't face these same problems. But I don't think we have glamorized waiting. I don't think we have understood that waiting is important. Waiting is necessary because we don't have it all together. We need some right people to come in our life. We need some things to leave our life. We need the right opportunity to come. Because that's another thing I learned about waiting. Don't despise small beginnings. Don't despise the small things because God is into the little things. God is even into the stupid stuff that you think is stupid. And you like, God, why are you making me do this thing? But God is in that thing. God is in the small act of kindness that maybe that one hello is going to introduce you to somebody that you didn't even know was going to be the person to help you. That those things, and God is removing evil motives out of our heart in the waiting that we have not yet realized. But waiting is necessary. Sometimes in this current state that I'm in, if I'm going to be honest, sometimes I wish I can go back to waiting because the pressure wasn't as heavy. The responsibility wasn't as heavy or great. That sometimes I wish I can go back to the waiting. Sometimes. To that vulnerable part of me that God allowed me to make mistakes and God allowed me to have temper tantrums, and I didn't understand the pressure that comes with what it is that God is taking me to do or calling me to do. Sometimes I wish I could go back to that, if I'm gonna be honest. Because are you ready for the responsibility that comes with whatever it is God has promised you? Are you ready for the discipline that you have to have? Are you ready for the critical thinking you have to have? Are you ready that sometimes you're going to have sleepless nights? Are you ready for sometimes you're going to not be able to hang out with your friends because God is saying, I need you to do this and I need you to focus right here. I need you to make sure that all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. Like, are you ready for what it is that you want? Are you ready? And a lot of times when we're waiting, we say yes, but we're not. Because God will let you know when the time is right. He'll start pushing you so that you could do the thing because you've gotten comfortable with waiting. God will let you know. You don't have to come back to him and say, is it time yet? Are you done? My mama and grandma used to always say, stop looking in the oven. The cake is not done yet. The more you open it, the longer it's going to take. Stop looking in the oven. Stop standing at the oven trying to see if the cake has risen. Go about your day. God will let you know when the time is up. God will let you know when your season of waiting is up. And I think that even God will let us know when our season of waiting is up. But one of the things that I think we should also, how do we respond in waiting? How are you responding while you're waiting on something? I know now my response is different. I don't have those same emotions of frustration. It may be sometimes I can say I get impatient. Sometimes my faith is rattled because it's like, but I think my endurance to say that waiting is nothing to me now. Waiting is safe. Waiting is important. Waiting means that God is working something out and his timing is better than my timing. My endurance has gotten stronger that I'll be waiting. And I think, and you'll go through seasons where you won't wait and God will just make it happen like this because you've been prepared. You've been prepared that I don't need you to wait 3 years anymore. I just need you to wait 3 weeks now. because your response was great when you've waited before, your endurance, your faith. You believe in me so much that you know I'm going to do it, that I don't even need to wait no more. Because you believe in me enough to be like, oh my God, gonna do it. So waiting just looks different in whatever season you're in, but I don't want you to think you can bypass the wait. Waiting is important. Waiting is necessary. Waiting is safety. Waiting is God's way of showing you his provision. Waiting is God's way of showing you his faithfulness. Waiting is important. And I wish we did a better job of showing you that. I wish that we didn't go into hiding when we wait and become embarrassed and ashamed. Because a lot of times when we tell people our plans and they don't happen right away, we now be, when they come back up like, girl, I thought you was doing this, or dude, I thought you was doing this, and it hasn't happened yet, we become embarrassed and be like, I'm just going to shy away and I'm not going to tell nobody no more. But somebody needs to see you wait gracefully. Somebody needs to see you wait with your head up high and say, I still believe God. Somebody needs to see you waiting and your response is not out of frustration. It's not out of comparison. It's not out of jealousy. It's not out of pity, but it is, I'm going to wait on God no matter how long it takes. Because I think a lot of times is what God is, another thing God is doing is saying, do you want me more than you want the blessing? Or do you want the thing more than you want me? In my waiting, what I also learned is my confession changed, that God, I want you more than I want the thing. God, because to be honest, I'm not smart enough to do it by myself. I'm not crafty enough to figure it out how to handle this thing that you've promised me by myself. I need your help to do it. So if I need your help, I need to wait on you. I need to wait on when you're ready for me to have it. And I also need to get myself together. I need to trust that you're working everything out for my good. I need to trust that every no is going to be to my benefit. I need to know that every delay is going to be to my benefit. I need to believe that when man tells me no, you will tell me yes. God is doing so much in the waiting that this one episode is not going to be able to display that. Waiting also shows how obedient you are to God. If an opportunity comes, if you have to ask yourself, is it a God opportunity or just a good opportunity? Waiting is going to test you. Waiting is going to see if you really who you say you are, if you really this devoted person to God, if you really this strong person you are. Waiting is testing all of those things, but also waiting is causing you to be more dependent in God. So it's really strengthening your muscle of faith. The muscle that we need. The Bible says the only way to please God is through faith. So what type of God will make me wait and strengthen a muscle in me that I need to please him? What type of God will make me wait to build a muscle in me that I need to please him? Like he's showing me how to please him. He's giving me a blueprint on how to please him in this waiting that I thought it was that God didn't love me. I thought I made it all about me. That's one thing that waiting taught me, that this thing called life is not about me. It is bigger than me. It is bigger than me. Me sitting at a desk at a job doing presentations daily, I'm thinking it was just, I'm here to get a check and this job is boring and I'm not finding happiness. But what it was God was stretching me. He was getting me comfortable with sitting in front of a camera, talking to people that I didn't know. He was getting me comfortable sharing my vulnerability. He was getting me comfortable to be able to sit on a platform and talk to you about him. Like he was making me aware. He was making me practice. And I thought that practice was unnecessary. But it was the best thing that I could ever do to get to this point. So I had to value there. Because at some point, now you're there, and that there becomes here. And then what you used to be was back then and there. Like at some point, here changes. At some point, there changes. The goalpost changes. But if you never appreciate here, when you get there, you're always going to want to get to the next there. But you prayed to be here first. I prayed to be at a point in my life where I was connected to God. So in my waiting, he was connecting the pieces. He was building me up. He was making sure that the armor fit me. He was making sure that I was strong enough to beat my Goliath. Like another story in the Bible that I'll give you is David. When he was going to defeat the Goliath and Saul gave him his armor, it did not fit him. But if David had not waited enough, he wouldn't be securing himself to say, this doesn't fit me. I'm going to use the stone that God has given me. I'm going to use what I already have to fight my Goliath. But when we don't wait, we'll begin to pick up other people's armor and we'll put it on and we'll think we can go beat this thing that's stopping us from getting there. And we'll never win the battle because that was not who we were called to be. We begin to put on somebody else that if we don't wait properly, we will miss what God is trying to do. And that's all I got to say for this episode. I hope you enjoy this episode. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Talk to me in the comments. What are you waiting on that you're waiting on God to do? How are you waiting? What does waiting look like for you? What do you feel when you wait? We're going to talk about it in the comments. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms. I probably will go on live on some of my social media platforms, so you can follow me at Mariah on Purpose. I love you guys so much. Thank you for all the love and support. I'll talk to you later. Bye.